And hello again, my students. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson, and I'm excited to be with you. This will be the second to last of all webcasts for the whole year. So this is the second to last. Today we're going to talk about the how the Reformation is going to spread from the ideas of Luther and Calvin and the ideas of William Tyndale and John Wycliffe. Um, Next time we'll talk about how the Catholic Church responds. They're going to go through a reformation of their own, and they're going to try to bring their church to be more in line with how the people were thinking for the time. So, anyway, that'll be for next week. Let's go ahead and get into it. Excited to be with you today. Okay, so the Church of England. The Church of England, though affiliated with Catholicism, separated from Rome in 1534 during the reign of Henry VIII. It is ruled by the English monarch. Monarch meaning the king is the head, or the queen is the head of the church. The church's seat of power is at Canterbury, and its spiritual leader is the archbishop over in that area. The Church of England was part of the Catholic Church. At one point, the England was all Catholic, but history happens and now it is not. So we're going to go a little bit into how that happened. So Henry VIII was responsible for the separation of the Church of England from the Roman Catholic Church in 1534. It bases its authority on an unspoken line of apostolic succession going back to St. Peter. The Church of England emphasized the teachings of the Church Fathers. Remember we talked about how the Catholic Church, they say that their authority can go all the way back to St. Peter? Okay, so that's all I'm trying to say here, just to help you remember why the Catholic Church states their authority and how it is. William VIII wanted Pope Clement VII to grant him an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. Catherine had suffered several miscarriages, and Henry VIII wanted a son to carry on the house of Tudor. Now, um, Henry VIII had a daughter, and her name was Mary, with Catherine, but he wanted a son so that the name could continue on, and he couldn't get that, so he wanted annulment. Annulment is simply, it's basically saying it never happened. Divorce means that you were married, but then you were separated. Uh, and an annulment would mean it never happened. If people say you were married, they're lying, kind of thing. And so the Pope, he's petitioning the Pope, hey, help me out here, give me an annulment, because divorce was a serious thing in the Catholic Church, and it still is today. Um, so he's asking the Pope to, give me an annulment so I can marry this other girl that I have the hots for, and she can most likely give me a son. Let's see how the Catholic Church responds. Oh, before I get into that, yeah, so Clement felt obligated and he refused the annulment, mainly because Catherine was the daughter of the King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in Spain, and Spain was like a huge supporter of the Catholic Church. So the Pope probably felt a lot of pressure to make the people in Spain happy, more happy than Henry VIII. And so anyway, it's going to cause a huge schism. So King Henry is going to break away. He's going to make his own church called the Church of England. He's going to appoint Thomas Cranmer, and he's going to be the archbishop, and he'll be the new head um, of the church, just under the king himself. And so you can go ahead and read here how he introduced the Book of Common Prayer, etc., etc. Anyway, bottom line though, although they did break away from the Catholic Church, a lot of people, citizens in England, hated it because it was still very Catholic, and England was already moving towards a more Protestant view of religion, and so they didn't like that the Church of England appeared so Catholic when they broke away from the Catholic Church. So here's Pope Clement VII. He excommunicated Henry VIII when Henry VIII said, "Forget you, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm making my own church." And so they excommunicated him, and he did not divorce the Catherine from Henry VIII, which means when Henry VIII put her away, meaning he divorced her from his churches, his new church. The Catholic Church said we don't recognize it, and so now you are an adulterer. So English Parliament approved many acts introduced by Henry VIII to reduce the Pope's authority in England. And one, Henry VIII had declared himself supreme head of the Church in England, and thereby separating from the Church of England and separating the Church of England and the Church of Rome. Okay, the Submission of the Clergy Act required all clergy to accept Henry's authority. All the clergy has to give homage to King Henry now. Supplication against the Ordinaries Acts limited the ability of the clergy to protest. Can't protest, it's against the law. An act in restraint of appeals forbade the clergy for protesting to the papacy. No one can try and reach out to the Pope as well from England now. It's completely severed the ties. Act concerning Peter's pence and disposition denied Rome the ability to collect money from English churches. Rome cannot collect any more taxes or money from the churches. The Treasons Act made speaking out against the king as head of the church a capital offense. You do that, you will die or be severely punished. And the Dissolution of Monasteries Act closed all monasteries and seized their assets. So very serious laws being enacted here, trying to make a new church here in England. Also, there was the preparation for the Great Bible, which also was about to was being constructed. So we have the Great Bible, Geneva Bible, and the Douay Rheims Bible, and you can see when they are all put together at this time. In 1604, King James I of England commissioned an English version of the Bible, which has come to be known as the Authorized King James Version. So this is the individual that authorized what we now call the King James Version, which is probably the most popular version of the English Bible out there to date. Okay, so Queen Mary I succeeds Edward the Sixth. Edward the Sixth was the son of Henry VIII, and Edward the Sixth unfortunately dies at the age of 20. It's sad. He's probably poisoned, but I don't know. I'm just it's very uncommon for someone to die so young. There was probably some foul play there, but who knows, right? Okay, so the Queen Mary I, she was the daughter of Catherine, which was the lady that Henry VIII wanted to annul and no longer be married to. Well, Mary is now going to be the queen. Mary is a Roman Catholic. She wants to end the Protestant movement. She marries Philip II of Spain, who's also a strong Catholic, and they are co-rulers of both England and Spain. So the Marian persecutions refer to the unrest and execution of Protestant reformers during the reign of Mary I in England. At least 284 people were executed for their religious beliefs. Queen Mary I became known as Bloody Mary for the severity of her persecutions. Bottom line, because Mary was a strong Catholic when she became the next ruler of England, and her husband also was from Spain, therefore having strong ties. They did not like Protestants, and anyone who would speak out against the Queen and the Catholic Church and try to promote Protestantism, she's murdered, killed them, lit a match under them, as you can see in this picture here. I mean, and not just to a few people. I mean, 284 people. Could you imagine 284 people being burned to death because they just believe religion should be a different way? So she got the name of Bloody Mary. She was not well liked. People did not like her, but they were afraid of her. So anyway, constitutional monarchy is a form of government in which the power of the monarch, meaning the king, is regulated by a code of laws. The foundations of England's constitutional monarchy is established in 1215 by the, you guessed it, Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was a bill, I should say, was a precursor to the Bill of Rights, which came in 1689, passed by Parliament, and established a constitutional monarchy in England. King William III and his wife, Queen Mary II, were joint sovereigns, um, subject to the Bill of Rights. So after Mary, we're going to go into the Elizabethan era, where it's Queen Elizabeth, and she's going to change things around. She is a Protestant, um, so the Catholic Church is no longer going to ever have any kind of sway in England at this point. After Elizabeth becomes, she reestablishes the Church of England, in which she is the head of the church, and she allows people to be Protestant and for Reformation to continue. And it's during this time, because they kind of consider this the golden age of English history. Of course, you got great people like William Shakespeare, etc. So the Elizabethan religious settlement established order in the Church of England. The Act of Supremacy in 1559 reestablished the Church of England's independence from Rome. Queen Elizabeth I was made the supreme governor of the Church of England. An Act of Uniformity in 1559 established a common liturgy through the Book of Common Prayer. Okay, so here we're just going into, you could just get a little more of what the Common Prayer was. Again, people didn't like it because it still felt very Catholic in a lot of their practices. Puritanism was a movement that fought for greater reforms in the Church of England. The Puritans were inspired by the Anabaptist movement. If you remember, they're like the Mennonites, the what we now call Amish, somewhat. It's kind of that movement there. They were critical of the Book of Common Prayer. They thought it was too Roman Catholic. Puritans were tolerated under King James I. When Charles I succeeded James, he attempted to annihilate or eliminate the practices of Puritanism. Puritanism comes from Calvin, who you learned about last time in the last webcast. And Calvin, he believed that everything was predestined, and that it was God who already made sure that you were either going to heaven or hell, which is what predestination believes, and a lot of people believe that as well. So then they would try to be the very best they could because they felt like they were the ones predestined to go to heaven. Very interesting. Anyway, many Puritans began to leave England because of the persecutions, and that's when they started arriving in Jamestown. They settled colonies. You have Plymouth Rock. You have John Winthrop. I think it's supposed to be Lothrop. I'm not sure. And Massachusetts Bay Colony as well. And John Knox was a Scottish clergyman and leader of the Protestant Reformation. He's considered the founder of Presbyterianism, and that's another denomination which rose in Scotland during the 16th century. He was strongly influenced by, guess again, John Calvin. So a lot of influence from Calvin now. The Act of Toleration in 1689 granted rights to nonconformists such as Baptists, Congregationalists, Quakers, but not Roman Catholics. So that's pretty much the end there. There's a major difference between Calvinism and Lutheranism. And that main difference is Calvinism, like I said, believed in predestination. He believed that when you came to earth, you were either predestined to go to heaven or hell. And he used the scriptures to sort of back up his theory. Luther believed that it wasn't through being a good person that made you go to heaven. It was your faith in Jesus Christ. And so they have kind of a different take on things. We're going to see a lot of Lutheranism expanding through northern Europe, while Calvinism will take more hold in places like England and maybe even parts of France. So, with the Huguenots. Anyway, that's it. So go ahead and write your one-page summary. I look forward to seeing you at the first of the week. And until then, bye-bye.